And happy Monday to everybody. This is Dr. Bernard Alvarez here from the Global Illumination Council, a.k.a. the GIC. And we are here for another very interesting segment of the Just Bernard Show. This is a special extended 90-minute broadcast. We normally do 1 hour, but due to the quality of my guests today, I will say, or I should say how much they have to share with us, I know 90 minutes probably won't be enough to really get the whole thing, but we are going to be doing a 90-minute extended show today, and I've been looking forward to it. I just wanted to thank everybody for your very positive feedback on our Empower show last Sunday, and let everyone know that, no, we did not do one yesterday, and we will not be doing one on next Sunday, but Empower will be returning in 2 weeks. And so if you really enjoyed the meditations and the inspirational talk and everything, we look forward to having you join us then. Also, before we get into our into introducing our guests and getting into our deep discussion, because I know we're going to have some great stuff to talk about, I want to remind everyone that next week we will be having Eve of Amnesty herself, Yvonne Weiss, will be joining us. She is the mother from England who has dedicated her life to, dedicated this part of her life to doing a fundraiser for Amnesty International. And she will be trekking through Peru in the next week, actually a couple days after our broadcast together, and she's going to join us for a before, and then when she returns, she's going to come back and tell us how it went and discuss the book that she will be doing as well. But anyway, without further ado, let me say hello, of course, to our Assistant Director, Reverend Trevor Knott. Good morning, Trevor. How is Manitoba, Canada?
Manitoba, Canada is great right now. Nice weather. Really nice outside. We have a full chat room, about 10 people on right now.
Well, welcome, everybody. We're glad you're there. And is Eve of Amnesty on there yet?
Yep, always.
Hello, Yvonne. Much love. And by the way, in case you don't know, Yvonne is one of our latest administrators for the organization, so we're really happy and proud to have her joining us as an administrator, and she's kicking butt. So anyway, without further ado, this has been something I've been looking forward to. We've been kind of missing each other the last couple of weeks, and been trying to have Aaron come on for the last, I think it's been about a month, I think, when I first started contacting Aaron about scheduling today's show. So let's welcome Aaron McCollum. Aaron has been, for lack of a better term, worked for the military and I guess what we would call black ops operations as well. There's a very good chance he's one of the super soldiers that kind of forgets what he did. And I'm really, really, really happy to welcome him on the Just Bernard Show. So welcome, Aaron. Good morning out there in Los Angeles. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well, Bernard. Thank you for having me on the show, and good afternoon for you being over there.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock here in Virginia, which I never realized Virginia was such a military, or I should say CIA military-type state. I'm learning more and more about Virginia. It's a little bit not what I expected, but...
Oh, Virginia is a very strategic and pinnacle part of the whole construct of the CIA, as well as many other alphabet organizations of our government.
Yeah, so I'm learning. But Anyway, Aaron, I figured the best way for us to get started today for today's show is many of us, including myself, heard much of your story when you were interviewed by Kerry Cassidy for Project Camelot. I really adore Kerry. I think she's a wonderful person. I really enjoy watching all of her interviews. And I learned quite a bit from your story with her. Perhaps for those of us that are not familiar with the interview or whatnot, would you be able to maybe, I don't want to say start at the beginning, but start at where you would like to begin the story?
Well, yeah, and it's definitely a lot to explain, so I'll do my best to give you the Cliff Note version for your listeners, for those who may not have, heard any of my interviews. Basically, I come from a long line of military, people that were involved in the military, but not just the military, but more the special side of the government, you could say, such as my father and my grandfather. And beyond that, there has been a major, you could say, blackout in being able to find out anything about my family history. That's been something that I've been working on to try to crack, but my grandfather was in naval intelligence, and he was involved with Project Paperclip. From the best that I've been able to gather from some family history, some archives, and some testimonials from some family members who will remain nameless. He was somehow involved in the reassignment of the Nazi scientists and some of the top SS officers to be relocated, not just to the United States, but to Russia, certain parts of South America, and elsewhere. My father was involved in black operations and actually worked somewhat with, and this is confirmation I've gotten directly from him and from another dear friend of mine, Dave Corso, who also is a whistleblower on Project Camelot. And my father, Dave Corso, and I actually have sat down and talked to each other, and the way Dave Corso and my father would be labeled was more of the pre-generation of the Super Soldier Project back in the when they were actually taking already personnel that were in the military and working on advancing them in certain ways, whether that was psychic abilities, remote viewing, or even on the more super soldier side as far as other abilities. Once that was really, they were really breaking through with that is when they finally implemented Project Talent, which they started out with about 2,000 kids nationwide, and were evaluating them on special abilities and how they could use them for more of the secret side or the shadow government side of operations, be that under Project Montauk, Super Soldier Program, Project Stargate, Project Looking Glass, Project Mannequin, and it goes on. There's actually around 149 sub-projects under what was MK Ultra. So that's just a little brief history on that, but how, as far as I go, I was brought up in not a normal upbringing. Pretty much from the age of 3, I had an incident happen where I was evaluated at a facility. It's a long story, and I don't want to get too much into it because there's so much we can talk about, but I qualified. My sister was also evaluated at a young age, as well as my brother, but for different aspects of what they wanted. And that's when my training began. I'm 5 years old, and I'm learning how to handle knives and survival, and actually, becoming knowledgeable with weapons. And to carry it on. I go through stages. You kind of graduate to the next level. And then when I was 16, I was finally told what branch of the service I would be joining and why. And then at 18, barely turned 18, already off, and that's when things really kicked off with the projects as far as Operation Spyglass and Project Seagate and other operations that I was a part of in a span of officially 10 years, unofficially really about 12 years. And I say that because I was already observing and being part as projects and certain operations when I was from 16 to 18, but not merely as an observer to kind of really get my feet wet for what was to come.
Aaron, excuse me, let me ask you a question as far as the fact that you were, apparently it sounds like you were being groomed from an early age. Did you happen to know of other youngsters, kids, teenagers that were also being groomed? Is this a typical thing that they do?
Yes, actually, and when I was saying going up in stages, what happened was, now between the ages of 9 and 13, from what I've been able to gather, especially talking closely with my sister, I still have that particular area in my life is almost complete blackout as far as what I can remember. My sister's been able to fill in some of the blanks, but I remember, I'll just give you this one little, I'll share with you an experience that I do remember. When I was about 8 or 9, I was taken out with a bunch of other kids my age, about 12 of us, I believe, and this is when we lived out in the desert in Central Oregon. We were taken out to a location, and there was this big field with a bunch of rocks and sagebrush and stuff like that, and there were these boards, like 4 foot by 4 foot plywood boards, laying flat, all scattered, no particular order, in an area that was several acres large. And these men that we were with had us all line up, shoulder to shoulder, but about 20 feet apart from each other. I don't remember exactly what the directions were, but I do remember we had to walk out of the field. And I wasn't really particularly paying attention to the other kids, but I do remember, and I still find it odd on this one, and I haven't been able to get any answers, but I saw a board, I was drawn to it. Instead of using my right hand to pick it up, for some reason I picked up a corner with my left hand, and there was a rattlesnake under it, and it bit me. I don't remember what happened after that. I don't remember if I was taken to the hospital or what. And honestly, I don't even know what the significance is, but what is significant about it is that the next thing I do remember is that I was with another group of kids, and I absolutely know that the last group of kids that I had been with, I never saw again. And this happened in stages. So up until I finally went off on my own, yes, and the group would get smaller and smaller and smaller. So it was kind of like a pyramid type of setup for as you progress up. They start with a lot, and then they end up with, the final selection.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the best way I can really describe it from what I absolutely remember, because there's still a few things that are a bit fuzzy, and I try to be very careful with how I explain things, because even myself, there's some things that I'm not quite sure how to explain. So I've put those aside so that I can do my own personal research into a journey with by many different means before I am sure with it myself that's absolutely sure before I share it publicly.
Right, of course. Now, so basically, it's definitely fair to say then that they did have other children that were being groomed, or as you said, groomed and eliminated, basically to culminate the highest caliber of soldier or agent. I would guess.
Absolutely, yes, that is correct.
Okay. And so you were telling us about the time you were 18, things started taking off?
Well, yes. I mean, see, they do separate things. Okay, you have really two separate factions of what the super soldier, and I have to remind, super soldier is more of a general term. Not every super soldier is some super fast, super strong, X-Men type of person, because you also have people that are more of on the psychic side, like you have people that do remote viewing or even bilocation remote viewing. You have other people that, depending on what your heightened ability or even something that was synthetically altered or heightened within you, depends on what project, what operation you go to. So, and this does include women as well. There are women within this project. A lot of them are unfortunately under Project Montauk, later on the Phoenix Project, or used elsewhere under Project Monarch which we can get into later if you want me to get more detailed fact. So, before I get off the track here, not every super soldier goes in the military. Some never go to boot camp. However, they will show up, or they can show up, either at a CIA installation. They have all the proper ID, the proper paperwork. As far as everyone knows, they're an agent within the CIA. Next month, that same person could show up at an Air Force base with an Air Force uniform, an Air Force ID, and they could be doing some operation there. But they are, for lack of a better term, a civilian. And then you have people on the other side of things, which is what I dealt with, where you join a branch, and more often than not, excuse me, they have you enter a branch that is best suited for whatever specific operations they want you to do. For example, if they're wanting you to do a lot of more kind of reconnaissance type of operations, they may have you go into the Marine Corps, and then you work your way up and you become, you get into the Force Recon area of the Marine Corps. Perhaps you are a bilocation remote viewer. Then they're going to place you into naval intelligence. So for me, specifically, because of the two main operations I was part of, Spyglass and Seagate, there were strategic points that the U.S. Coast Guard had bases at. So it was most convenient, and also because it's not like I go into boot camp and, there isn't this flag on my record going, oh, well, this is so-and-so, so, they have no idea. The recruiters don't know, well, I should say, the company commanders, which is the same thing as a drill instructor in the Coast Guard, the company commanders have no idea. The people there don't know. They're just another recruits going through boot camp. So I went through boot camp, graduated, and was assigned to my first unit, which was a regular Coast Guard unit. But now here's where things get a little, not complicated, but it can be hard for people to understand, which is fine because it works it's very intricate how to do things. So now I'm in full active duty service with the United States Coast Guard. But I'm wearing two hats, really. I'm wearing one hat as, Aaron McCollum, at first, Seaman McCollum, I was an E3, and then, getting up to petty officer, third class, second class. But on the other side of the spectrum, I'm Aaron McCollum, better known as 13-03957. That was a serial number that was labeled with me. And so I would do the regular side of the Coast Guard, but then I would also split time between doing the real operations I was meant for. So what they would do is they would basically, orders would be set for me to be temporarily assigned somewhere, or I would go somewhere for, quote, training or whatever. When I would return, I would have all the documents showing, oh, well, he went to this training, it was certified, but really I never even went to that training facility. I never went to that temporary assignment of duty. I was off doing other assignments. So that's kind of a nutshell how that works.
They basically, so the reality of it is that they even lie to each other in the military.
Oh, well, yeah, Bernard, anyone that thinks that the military is an absolute cohesive outfit, not to say that they're sorely mistaken, because honestly people just don't know, for the better part, but yes, there are many layers to the onion of the military complex. And yes, there are people, as I was saying, frankly, you just aren't in a high enough pay grade to know that very much happens within the military. So yes, you could really split the military into there's the regular military that everyone's aware of, and that really 95% of people in the military and more on the ground level are aware of. And then you have that higher level that is on their own agenda, right, doing other things that the regular military is not aware of.
The clandestine arm.
Yes. Oh, very much so, yeah.
Okay. So after, as you were in the Coast Guard and you had gone through all these trainings and whatnot, you were still doing your daily duties as a sea person, a seaman?
Well, yeah, and it started off, it didn't really start, I didn't hit the ground running, you know. They wanted me to get acclimated and really fit in, make friends, you know, with the unit I was with. And the unit I was with was a very specialized heavy weather search and rescue unit up in Washington, where, you know, it was definitely, in fact, the facility that men and women from Coast Guards from other countries all around the world go there specifically to train to learn how to handle search and rescue operations in heavy weather conditions. So for the first, I think about the first year, I was just doing my regular job. I was always aware that other things were to come, and occasionally I would, you know, get updated on, you know, get ready for this, or, you know, just little briefs, little messages that would come to me via either visitations or you know, phone calls or what have you. And then after a year, I was finally geared up to begin what is known as Operation Spyglass. That was the first, you could say, clandestine black operations that I was really kicked off to do. And this goes back to when I said that from 16 to 18, I was sent on certain missions, but simply as an observer. It was kind of along the same thing as you have young men and women who are in high school or even beyond that who are interested in becoming police officers. They can go to a police station, talk to, you know, the sergeant and say, you know, I'm interested in becoming a cop. I'd like to do a ride-along, which, of course, is they assign you to a police officer. You get to sit in the car. You ride along with them the whole shift. You get to watch them pull people over, make arrests, whatever, but you're not carrying a gun. Obviously, you're just observing. Mm-hmm. This is what was taking place with me, except it was on what I found out later was Operation Spyglass, which is the United States operation, which is global, of military abductions.
I see. In this, when you say that it's global, I have a question in the sense that were you working with perhaps other countries' military as well, or was this strictly United States government military?
Depending on the operation, if it was within the United States or any of the U.S. territories, and even sometimes out of country, it was primarily a United States operation. However, there were times when it was more of a cooperation with other branches. And even sometimes we would use regular military personnel who were under the impression that they were doing something that really wasn't. I'll give you an example. And I'll use the U.S. Coast Guard example. The U.S. Coast Guard does a lot of immigration interdiction, and they work with the INS on this. So let's say that there is someone coming into the country illegally, and they just happen to be of someone after the intel has been done. They fit the bill for something that can be used later, and I can talk about this more on who exactly gets targeted for military abductions. But if it served us, we can have the regular Coast Guard intercept them, detain them, bring them on shore to INS agents, which weren't really INS agents, and these illegal immigrants would be bussed off, but they didn't go to an INS holding facility, and more than likely they weren't shipped back to their home country. They were taken elsewhere for other things.
So basically, they use them for their abilities and whatnot. And is that what you mean when you say a military abduction is just really finding a person of interest, bringing them in and having them utilize their skills for any particular reason that the military chooses?
Well, there are several reasons why military abduction happens, and I'll go and explain that now.
Okay.
Excuse me. One reason is if you have someone, and let's say it's someone that's working in a project, it's a remote viewer or some kind of super soldier, someone who has been trained, specialized for a certain task, and for some reason, you could say the programming malfunctions, and they defect. They run away. They escape. Or you have maybe an engineer, scientist, whatever, has decided that they don't want to be a part of it anymore, and they know that they can't just walk out the front gates, so they escape. Two things will happen there. One, depending on who they are, what they know, they may just be killed. They'll send out a team, like one of the teams I was a part of. We'll go and we'd find them, and we would kill them. They would be assassinated in some way or form to make it look like it was an accident, suicide, whatever. But going back to the military abduction, one of the teams that I was with, if one of these people ran away, they defected, then we would be assigned to go get them and bring them back. So that's one reason for military abduction. The next reason is, now, for the past 35, 40 years, somewhere in between that number, every child that's born in a hospital in the United States, a sample of their DNA is taken.
Mm-hmm.
That DNA is then sent to several, the DNA mapping is sent to several places. But one of the places it's sent to is a special interest location that is ran by the NSA, but the shadow government, it's easier to just what people like me and others in the field that we're in, we just label it as MK Ultra, just because MK Ultra was kind of like the grandfather of all these operations now. So it's easier for me to just refer to the PTBs, the powers that be, under specific like this MK Ultra. So I'll refer to that for the rest of the show just because it's easier for me to do that.
All right.
So let's say MK Ultra then can access this DNA database, and you can actually, based on the DNA, and knowing who the parents are, they can almost do an exact, accurate prediction, if you will, on what this kid may be utilized for later on. This is where the recruitment takes place. And most of the time, they stick with the bloodline. If the grandfather was used in some way, and the father was used in some way, or the mother and the daughter, most likely, generation after generation, it's pretty much a guaranteed thing. My family, for example, is a prime example of that. And so what I'm getting at is, occasionally, you have a child that may be born at home or born somewhere, and so they're off the radar. Well, let's fast forward. Now you have this child that may be 5 years old, and they have some kind of anomaly occurs. The kid's in a candy store has a temper tantrum, and all the glass, all the windows in the candy store break, shatter, or something happens with that child, that boy or that girl, and word gets out. This isn't that common, but it does happen, and somehow it gets back to MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've shown interest in this child. It may not even be a child. It could be someone much older. It could be someone in their 20s, in their 30s. Somehow they've just gone. Now, because of their age, it's already too late to break them in, but they can be a person of opportunity. So let's say, and this did happen with me. I was in Boston. I received orders of a woman in New York who had slipped through the cracks, and she was a psychic / remote viewer, and we wanted to use her as a person of opportunity for an operation we're doing in Boston. So we go, we get her, we bring her back. They use her for the purposes that they use her for. Memories are suppressed, and she's returned. So that is a person of opportunity. But there's two people of opportunity. You also have, and I have to be, this isn't a Manchurian candidate, because the Manchurian candidate is actually a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But you have other people that are info mules. And what that is, and not anybody, but there are certain people that can be targeted for this. And if one person's been targeted for it and it's happened to them, then it usually reoccurs with that same person. What this is someone is taken through military abduction, through Operation Spyglass, and information is actually downloaded into their head. This can happen. Mm-hmm. That person then is directed. Now, mind you, they are under almost a trance-like state. They're under severe, kind of a shock treatment of mind control. They go to a location, and then information is extracted out. Why is this done? Well, with today's technology, if you give someone information in a thumb drive, or you have them put something on an SD card, in a cell phone, or whatever, there is technology to be able to intercept that information. However, if you download it into their head, it's a much more secure way. So that's an information mule that is used.
Okay. Is this information downloaded electronically, or is it done through a power of suggestion under hypnosis?
Well, it's not necessarily hypnosis, but it's more electronically.
Okay.
I can't really explain the exact process because, I wasn't one of the operators or engineers. I was just the go-to guy. Get them, bring them, take them back,
right,
and move on to the next task. But
and they don't know what hit them.
They don't know what hit them. No, they'll usually wake up disoriented and eyes are fuzzy. They may be a little dehydrated, and usually they're so confused that they either think that they have a bad hangover, or their drink was spiked, or sometimes it's so unusual that they don't want to talk about it at all, and they suppress that. The last thing, and this is for your viewers out there, and this one is a little bit more intense. So I have to say that before I describe this.
What's your audience warning?
This is my audience warning. This is 18 and over right now.
Okay, go on. That's fine.
The last one, which was one that I was a part of, is you have people that are taken to be used as either really human lab rats, where they're taken to underground facilities and they're used to test out new drugs, biological weapons, any new technology that they want to test on humans. They won't test these things on animals because, frankly, it just does not have the same results as the real thing. So humans are taken as lab rats, and they're kept there indefinitely. Then you have other humans, primarily children. Again, this is why I have to warn your audience, that are taken for two things. One, you have children and younger people are taken that are then put into the national and international sex slave project for more of the elite and other things. And then you have people that are taken for, and this is where it gets a little bit more, you could say controversial, but I've seen it myself, and others have spoken about this as well. There is a chemical, biological chemical within the brain that's extracted when you invoke fear. And the easiest way for them to do this is through torture, whether that's psychological torture or physical torture. The result is the same. And what they're extracting out of you, physically extracting out of you, is known as adrenochrome. This adrenochrome is then used as a euphoric, more of a, I don't want to say it's a fountain of youth, but it's a more of a euphoric biological drug that is used by beings not of this planet. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing, which is pretty much stopped now. It's almost completely gone away because there's really no need for it, but humans being taken for spare parts, whether it is a lung, an arm, an eye, or whatever.
Right.
So those are the main reasons for military abduction. Now, of course, there can be other reasons involved, but, taking someone that maybe is a political figure in another country and they're wanting to get information out of them, but those are the main reasons for military abductions within the United States and internationally under spyglass.
Now these are I've heard a lot about all of these types of abductions, and this is a very big how should we say accusation, which has been proven over and over again. As far as the sex trade and whatnot, what brings to mind for me what you said about, what is it called, the fear chrome or the
adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome. It reminds me of what our guest a couple of weeks ago, Chris Everard, was talking about, how these a lot of these elites and whatnot belong to these for lack of a better term, dark brotherhoods, and they get off on all this stuff. Is that what you know of? Is that what, I mean, basically what I'm asking is, do you know that this really happened? Did you see it, or is this a secondhand information that you're sharing?
This isn't secondhand information, Bernard. This is something I did see at one of the facilities that I was at. I definitely did see this. This was at a facility up in Vancouver, British Columbia, which was a major outpost for, that's basically, when I was in Vancouver, British Columbia, that was one of my main outposts for doing my labs around the Pacific Rim. And yes, I did witness it there.
So they really do, they get off on fear, don't they?
Well, it's not. And again, this is where it gets a little more controversial, you could say, but I did witness this, and I know it in my own heart and soul, so I'm not afraid to say it. And it's not necessarily the humans that are getting off, you could say, on the adrenochrome.
Oh, thank you. That takes me to the next thing. Is it would be considered, I would think that it would be very fair to say, considering all the research that I have done and with my own personal experiences of the occult and the esoteric, how, whether they be transdimensional entities, whether you want to call them extraterrestrials, and now I guess we're going to push the conversation here to the next level, is it fair to say that we are involved with either transdimensional and or otherworldly powers that be that are doing this?
Yes, we are. We are involved. We've been involved for a very long time. And it was something that kind of, again, when things were shifted from Nazi Germany to the United States, other entities, you could say, transdimensional, off-world beings, whatever you want to call them, again, shifted over as well, because base of operations that were going on in Nazi Germany in the 30s and early to mid-40s it wasn't wiped out. It was just more of an expansion. It's kind of like you got a big corporation. They're getting too big for the space, so they got to expand out. That's really what was going on with Project Paperclip. And so because we needed to expand out, they shifted over as well.
And
now there's a,
do we know that are they coming through? Are they? You know, this is such a diverse topic for me because they're just this is basically my field. It's channeling and whatnot, and the esoteric and the occult. However, do they, from what you have experienced, are they coming here physically, or are they manipulating the government through either psychic implants or other types of maybe walk-ins, or you know what I'm saying? What a walk-in is, like you walk into the body and pick it up. You know, David and I talked about the reptilians. He says they're just like transdimensional walk-ins. Are these officials being possessed? Are these physical beings that are telling them what to do? What has been your take on and your experience on that?
Well, I'll tell you my experience. I'd like to go more with what I've experienced and seen.
Yes.
And the diversity of this topic is just as diverse as the technology that is used and the methods. Physically, yes. What I prefer to refer to as the Alpha Draconians can come here physically. I've seen them physically when I was at Project Seagate and a few other bases I was at. They can also use technology, more of holographic technology, portal technology for transdimensional. And the thing that, and so they can come and they are around on different levels. The thing that, what I personally witnessed, and I know this for a fact, there are other people that may see differently, and that's fine because every experience deserves their own explanation.
Of course.
The way it works, as far as the shape-shifting that you hear so much about, it's not a physical shape-shift. People talk about they see a human that physically shape-shifts into a reptilian. That is, and I'm just telling you what I witnessed and what I know from what I witnessed. It's not a physical shape-shift. It's more of a, you could say, trans-dimensional. They have technology that really puts kind of like a holographic appearance around them to really appear human. There's only two reasons why they will, quote, shape-shift in front of a person. One, they want you to see them, and it may only be a quick thing with the eyes, the touch of a hand, whatever. The other one is there are people on this planet that their senses are so heightened that they can break that barrier. I can't explain how that works, but it can, and it does happen.
Seeing through the veil.
Right. So that's the best way I can explain it, just solely based on what I've experienced and what I know.
Now,
so, yeah.
I was going to say, as we're talking about this, I can't help but wonder how, I guess for lack of a better term, let me just say it, how do you feel safe talking about this? Is it just being in the public eye makes you feel safe, or that you're just so non-expendable to them that they're like, okay, let them talk, you know?
Well, see, that's an interesting situation, and for that, I'll have to go back to 2008, June of 2008. In June, okay, well, actually, let me go back a little further, okay, so that your viewers have a better understanding of why I'm in the position I'm in now. At some point in 2005, I don't exactly remember when, I had done something that was highly against regulation, extremely unauthorized, and still questioning within myself why I did it, because I know for a fact that I was very gung-ho, I was very pro towards what I was doing. I saw nothing wrong in it. To me, I had like you could say a godlike complex. I was completely protected. Any humans that were not involved with me were just cattle. They were just product. I didn't care. I was completely emotionless. Did not give a crap about any of that.
Right.
But something changed within me. Something happened. And what I can tell you, and here we're really going to get interesting. I had conducted an unauthorized operation at Project Seagate, and I had left. I had gone off planet. I know this may sound weird to some people, but it's absolutely true. But where I went still leaves to question. But I know that when I returned, those that were in charge of me were quite upset. I have very fuzzy memories of this, and I have been able to get corroboration from two people who are underground, and I cannot mention their names or even how they were involved with me.
That's understandable.
But the next memory I have is on December 21st of 2005. It was almost like the TV turned on, and there I am standing in the middle of winter in Portland, Oregon at the airport with 2 bags and not even remembering my own name. From that point, there's a lot that went on. Things were occurring, and I couldn't understand it, so I basically went out to the deserts, completely off the radar, no contact with anyone for quite some time. Then some other things occurred. As far as you could say an intervention where I decided to terminate myself. I don't want to call it suicide because everyone that is in deep as I was actually is implanted a self-termination program, and here's why. Normally, people in my position that are put on the back burner, like what happened with me, it isn't until they get into their 50s and 60s of age, and men and women, what they do is when they suppress your memories, they don't want you to remember for now, through some kind of technology. I don't know how they do this, obviously, because they did it to me. The brain is only set up to hold memories in certain parts of the brain. What they have been able to do, and they've been able to do it for quite some time, is actually relocate your memories into a part of the brain that you normally are unable to access. And it's basically, imagine them putting like a barrier. But it has a shelf life, and they know this. So when someone gets into their 50s and 60s, they've been living a regular life for as long as they remember. Suddenly, the wall breaks down, the shelf life has expired, and they start getting a wave of these memories, horrific memories, strange memories, things that they just simply can't process. It becomes so overwhelming. That's when the self-termination program does indeed kick in, and they self-exterminate. They kill themselves. This happened to 3 people last year that I was aware of that were in that age group, which is very unfortunate, but it unfortunately happens. Now, what I'm getting at is, and I've talked to quite a few people about this, even some psychologists and psychiatrists who have shifted over to study more in this field, and they've gotten away from the mainstream practice. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of an anomaly why, at such a young age, this is happening to me. I don't even have the answers. But to get back to the self-extermination, I finally had it. I just thought I was absolutely crazy and didn't want to have anything to do with my own mind. So I had gathered a bunch of pills, and then I got some alcohol. I think it was vodka or whatever. And I swallowed basically 3 or 4 handfuls of pills. I woke up the next morning in a hospital bed with the IV in me, and I remember waking up and I was not happy because the self-extermination program is a one-shot deal. And 9 times out of 10, it's effective. Now, here's what the nurse, the doctor, and even the receptionist that I talked to later on shared with me. Now, where I was staying at, I was doing some, you could say, freelance work just to make ends meet, and the person would let me stay at their house. It was a very nice house in a gated community. No one knew where I was at. Nobody knew. Yet, what I'm told is that this man had literally carried me into the hospital with what little belongings I had, told the nurse and the receptionist exactly what drugs I had taken. I don't even remember what they were. And as they put me on, I guess, the gurney, whatever, it turned around, the guy was gone. So there was an intervention that happened, and I can only explain it as it was an intervention that was not of this world. Mm. And that's even hard for me to sometimes digest, but there's been way too many things that have happened in the past couple of years for me not to know that that was indeed a fact.
Aaron, I need not to interrupt you, but as I'm hearing your story and this particular intervention, I have to share with you and with everybody else, I have gone through the same exact thing back in 1994. Same exact thing, unbelievable copious amounts of chemicals to end this existence, terminate this existence, and have a otherworldly presence come and fix it. And
well, Bernard, frankly, they just were not ready for you to move on to the next level.
And yeah, and it's amazing how they just know. It's an amazing thing. So I can relate to it, and I can agree with you completely, and I understand exactly what you're went through. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and you know, not to get started, I mean, there's so much we could talk about, and maybe we can do another show later on to continue this, a part 2 or whatever. But, so, what was I getting at? Okay, 2008, I was in a really bad situation, and I was involuntarily put back on active status, where this time I was working as, you could say, a consultant with the Marine Corps, and I was working with a gentleman, and I will say his name because people need to know to stay away from this guy, Brigadier General Robert Ergale, who now is, you could say, a silent partner in the Joint Chiefs of Staff, in charge of all clandestine black operations throughout the world with the U.S. military. I was recalled to set up something that is now in effect, in full-blown, and the unit is called the Civilian Intel Force Recon Units. And this consisted of people who were involuntarily recalled, who worked in the field that I did, and not just that, but others throughout the world. I worked with 4 Australian SAS operatives, soldiers, 2 of Middle Eastern descent, who were directly involved in the false flag operation in Mumbai. So we were basically setting up and training for this clandestine group to do, you could say, a better job at small and large-scale false flag operations in order to gain geographical, economical, and police state progression. Then again, around the end of February, beginning of March of 2009, so this is fairly recent. Yeah. Again, there was some kind of intervention that I can't explain. I had taken some documents that I saw that I still have in my possession, which I haven't made public yet, but I will soon, that were quite disturbing. And this captain in the Marine Corps that I was working with, Scott Seidner, actually was helping me with this. And, of course, I was put back. I was actually staying in a place that was being funded by them. I lost everything again. lost all my worldly possessions, completely put it back on the blacklist, reinstated back into my death status, because one of the things that General Robert Gale told me when I first met him, as he's sitting behind his desk, he tells me, you will never be able to have a normal life. You will never work in a normal field for the rest of your life because you are too much of an asset. And then he slid over a document that I saw. I wish I had a copy of it. So all I can do is tell people what I saw. But it was a document that said, Petty Officer Second Class Aaron Egan McCollum, serial number 13-03957, killed in action, 1999. So things have been a little difficult, and then, of course, after March is when this awakening really kicked off. So it hasn't really been that long. It's just being the person I am, I'm the kind of guy that's all or nothing, so I really hit the ground running hard and heavy. It took me, it was no more than 2 months later that I finally decided, through the help of a friend of mine, who was a lot of support and motivation, to contact Kerry Cassidy at Project Camelot. We met several times personally because she lives not too far from where I'm located at. And then after a lot of talk, I finally built up the motivation to go public, and I decided to go public first with Kerry Cassidy Project Camelot, and that first interview came out in January, and, well, now here I am talking to you after doing around almost 30 interviews, and now started this new mission with the Truth Collective, and just doing what I can to help be just another vessel to assist people in getting information out.
You found it's a calling. It's a calling.
I've been told that many times. I've had many people tell me that, and I was told by a friend of mine. She told me, she said, Aaron, this was part of your soul contract. You had to go through almost 30 years of pure hell in order to be able to do the work you do now. And being the human side of me, sometimes I sit here and I get angry and I go, why me, why me, why me? And then I get into that whole poor me crap, and I have to say, no.
Yeah.
What I'm doing now, and also, and yes, this is a little selfish, I was part of some really horrible things, Bernard. I still, to this day, have really bad nightmares, flashbacks. Sometimes I wake up in cold sweats, shaking, because of the memories that come back. I gave orders. I did a lot of really, really bad things, things that I don't even share publicly, not yet. Simply, frankly, I'm not ready to. But what I'm getting at is, what I'm doing now, what I've been doing since January, is a way for me to really, it's a healing process, and to put it easy, and to do right by the humans, the citizens of this planet, for all the atrocities that I was a part of and did myself. So it's a two-way street. I feel like I'm being of service to people, and really it goes around full circle in service to myself.
I agree. I mean, it's very